Hi, and welcome back. In the last video, we composed the foundation for a song on the piano, using as little music theory as possible. Now in this tutorial, we will be taking that foundation and arranging it into a fully composed musical piece. Let's go! Now that's a pretty good start, but in order to make it a full piece, we are going to have to build up to that and then build off of it. So let's start with the build up. So to start building up to it, let's take our first progression of bass notes and play it only using one note at a time. In addition, let's take one note from our melody and play that continuously throughout the bass notes. I'm going to use C for example. Now to make things more interesting, let's add a second note, a B, to the C after the first four notes, so it makes it sound more dramatic. Now you can see that B note sort of carries it back into the next loop. Now we can use that for the first four notes, but for the second four, let's change it up just a little bit like this. Now that was just three notes, but you can already tell how much drama and emotion it adds to the piece. Now, just like the last video, the notes we use with our right hand doesn't really matter, as long as they're in the white note spectrum. So for example, we could do this. So now after the first 8, we're going to be doubling up our bass notes once more with our thumb and pinky. Now here we can get a bit creative. For the last 4 notes, instead of going the same A, F, C, G, I'm going to go F, F, G, G, which would sound like this. Now that we've changed it a bit at the end, we need to add a small bit of melody to complement those 4 notes. Now again, these notes can be anything as long as they're the white notes. So I'll play around a bit and see what I can find. Okay, so I found a bit of melody that I think fits pretty well. This is what it sounds like. Now once again, this is not set in stone. You can pick any notes in the white spectrum, and that should still fit no matter which ones you choose. Now that we're here, we can bridge right into the original foundation, and it should sound smooth, like this. Now we've built up to our foundation. Now what we have to do is build off of it to continue the piece in different ways. Now to do this, all we need to remember is that our bass notes are going to lead the song continuously, while our melody on the right hand will change depending on what keys we decide to use. Now this next section is a little bit confusing to explain because it mainly revolves around a creative aspect, what you choose to play. Now, as I said before, anything you press in the white key spectrum will work as long as you stick to your bass notes. However, since it's all ambiguous, I'm going to show you some different ways to come up with melodies for the song. So for the whole song together, we want it to change bit by bit as it goes along to keep things interesting. Now, one cool way to do this is to add rhythm to your bass notes. So instead of going, we could go, we could also try, notice how I'm using my thumb to hold a sustain note while my pinky taps up and down. Another form of rhythm you can try with your bass notes is this. Notice that when you press the same note with the thumb and pinky finger, say the C for example, the index finger is above a note that would fit the key. There are 3 white notes between the left 2, and there are 2 white notes between the right 2. This hand shape right here can stay the same while you're playing your bass notes, and it should fit with the song. No matter where we put our thumb and pinky, if we have it over a white note, the index finger should sound right no matter what we play. Or for our example, and this can help with rhythm. Now the way it can help with rhythm is because you can hold down both C notes while pressing this one in a different order. Or you can hold the first one down and alternate the other 2. Like that. Now if we take those 2 bass notes and the third note in the center and move them up and down in sequence, it'll add a lot of movement to our song. For example, now that we have various rhythms to go with for our bass notes and our melody, we can try changing up the pacing of it too. For example, instead of playing like this, we can play something like this. As you can see, that adds a lot more motion to the song. It makes it feel more upbeat and more energetic. Now for our piece, we're going to want to structure it like we would a story. It'll start slow, rise, 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 climax at a certain point, and then trail back down for the closing part of the song. So now we're going to jump ahead to the closing part of the song. Now the reason I'm jumping ahead is because during this section in the center of it, you're going to want to make it up your own. You're not going to want to follow a guide or a rule book. You're just going to want to play what sounds fitting for your bass notes. Those are our foundation. Now the key here is not to feel intimidated. If you have your bass note foundation, and you're sticking with your key, which are the white ones in this case, whatever you play should sound fitting to whatever you're starting with. So whether you choose to go, or say, or even, it should still fit with your bass notes. Now, I mentioned that a song is like a story. There's a rising action, a climax, and then a falling action near the end. What we're going to focus on now is the falling action. We're going to build it up, build it up, build it up, and then once we reach the moment of highest intensity, we're going to gently bring it back down to the foundation and let it go. Now, say we've built up to the point where we have this. Now, if we keep our left hand down in the bass side, our right hand now is one octave above where it normally is. So if we keep it up there for the original part of the foundation, it'll sound more relaxed and more peaceful near the end. This is also affected by how hard you're hitting the piano keys. If you're slamming them down like, it'll be a lot more aggressive than if you just sort of, see? So if we end up there, we can close the song by repeating the foundation gently with our right hand, and with our left hand eventually shrinking down to one note off of the two bass notes. So, and there we go. So what I'm going to do now is take the same format and apply it to a different set of bass notes and a different melody and see that it comes out the same. So while it is a little bit rough around the edges, that is essentially how to arrange a piece. So in the next video, we'll be covering tips and tricks to finish up our song and make it sound more interesting and unique. Thanks for watching, I'll see you then.